Hello and welcome to the latest interview we have for the Møller Institute Leadership Insights. I'm delighted to be joined here today by Jeremy Keeley. Jeremy, hi.
Hi, Paul. How are you?
Very well, very well. So, Jeremy, we're both associates of the Møller Institute in Cambridge University, part of obviously Churchill College, Cambridge. Jeremy, tell me about yourself.
Thanks, Paul. I consider myself to be a simple facilitator, a developmental facilitator, if you like. I love working with people, with individuals and with teams on their development, and particularly probably around resilience and around change, around leading through change. I do quite a lot of executive coaching. I've been at this, for want of a better word, since probably about 1991 in various forms. Independent since 95 and associated with Møller for a good 12 or so years. So that's probably enough, isn't it?
Yeah. Excellent. I don't know if you have a blue chip record before that with KPMG and other great firms before that. So at the moment, obviously, we're still in the sort of COVID-19 pandemic, and leadership is one of the big issues that a lot of firms, a lot of companies, a lot of financial services institutions are really facing. What do you think are the big characteristics of leadership that we need at the moment?
Yeah, it's interesting. This is really relevant, actually, at the moment. Is probably right. I've been through a bit of a journey on this myself over recent times. When in thinking about this interview, I was thinking about presence, and I don't mean presence how I show up. I mean being present. And I was lucky enough to interview Michael Chaskalson recently as one of these series, and he talked about his quiet ego leadership, and this idea of leaders being here now with you, with us. And I think I've had a huge amount of agreement with that. I think in thinking about myself, leaders who can really listen, leaders who can be awake to the context as it's happening, awake to their own habitual thinking and patterns and reactions, and then be able to choose their responses to what's going on. But also leaders who are able to draw on what's the right thing to do right now, and to do things in the right way. And what I found, though, was, I was thinking all about that, my sort of ego got in the way a little bit and listened to myself, like how do you say something that's clever or whatever. And I just sort of stopped for a while and just listened to my heart. And I wonder if you'd listen to yours, or anybody listening to this would listen to their heart, and just think about, just feel your way into those leaders that you've worked with in your life, or you've experienced in your life, whom you genuinely respect, whom you genuinely think you would generally follow to the end of the earth, for want of a better word. And so what happened for me was that I went into my heart and just kind of held in my heart one of the leaders that I know that I would follow to the end of the earth, that I would trust implicitly. And she has this capacity to bring love to the work, to her leadership, and does it consciously. And it's not about loving somebody else, it's about bringing her love, her really good intention for the people she's leading, the person she's with, for the world, for the organization, for the purpose for which she's going, to the situation at any point in time. And that kind of just opened up something for me, which is all of the really good leaders I know, that's what they bring. And when you think about it, once you bring that love, then you automatically are then connected with the right thing. You're automatically connected with a deep presence for the situation, for the people around you, for a wanting for the good or the best of the situation. And so, yeah, so for me, the overriding characteristic of really powerful leaders is that they have this capacity to bring love. Interestingly enough, yesterday, which is just amazing, I got an email from one of the leaders whom I have a huge amount of respect for. I'm going to name him. His name's Stuart Fletcher. He used to be the chief executive of Bupa. And I've always had this huge admiration for him and the way he leads. And he sent me an article by another consultant by the name of Helena Clayton. And she's just written this work called Leadership and Love, the Heart of the Future of Work. And it just captured it for me, just exactly what I wanted to say. And I just thought, an amazing coincidence that I'm sitting here preparing my thoughts for this interview and wanting to talk about love and leadership. And this arrives on my desk the day before. So there's something quite powerful in this that's available.
That's some really powerful words there. So doing the right thing, doing it in the right way, and leading with love. So what are the characteristics about leading with love?
I think, yeah, great question. So for me, it's about really genuinely wanting the best for, whether it be for the best for the people you're leading or the best for the organization, the best for society, by the way, not just the best for the shareholders, but the best for society in the organization you're leading. By the way, the best for yourself. I don't mean in a very selfish way, but the ability to bring compassion and care and clarity to the situation. So for me, Adam Grant talks about this, walking the tightrope between compassion and clarity. And so, but that for me feels like love. Sometimes love can be quite tough, being able to say the right thing at the right moment for the person. One of the things, overriding memory I have of Stuart Fletcher, for example, is once he said to me, we were talking about difficult conversations and being able to address confronting issues, and he said, they deserve to hear it straight. Again, underpinned by love. It's not about me or the kind of my fear or my difficulty. It's about the person in front of you wanting the very best for them, and sometimes that being quite a straight message about what they need to develop about themselves or whatever. Yeah.
So compassion, care, and clarity.
And courage, by the way. So thank you for and courage.
Yeah. So four things: courage, compassion, care, and clarity. Really powerful things. And I think particularly in the pandemic, people are looking to their companies, their firms, and say, treat me more than just a cog in the wheel. So could you give me some examples that you've seen of somebody leading in this way?
I won't name too many names, but I've been working with an organisation just recently, for example, where just started to talk to them just before we went into lockdown, and we were going to do a 2-day team away day, classic 2-day team away day. And the CIO who I was working with, we sort of put something in the diary for April, and then we moved it to end of June, and of course COVID continues, and so sort of mid-May having a conversation about, well, do we really still want to go for this the end of June? What do we want to do? Or is there some preparatory work we could do online? And he said to me, Jeremy, we've got all of these people coming back from furlough over the next 6 to 8 weeks. And what I would love to do is work with my leadership team, that we bring them back in the best possible way for them. And we also look after the people as well, the people that have been here throughout this period, because sort of 20% of the people have stayed and carried the work. And so can we really find a way of really connecting in with them and making them feel safe as we come back? Now, for me, that's a demonstration of love. Never used the word. He never used the word. He didn't talk about love. Nevertheless, that genuine commitment to the care of the people coming back in. And we're talking about a group of men who are all IT, very, if you like, macho men. But all of them engage with this. All of them engage with this in a really powerful way. And that's just one little example. So just that I've seen it over and over again. And actually, Eleanor talks about this in the research she did about how many people, when you talk to them about love and give them permission to talk to them about love, the number of people that think, yes, it's absolutely essential for work and for all is high. When you talk to them about talking about love, then everybody goes, no, perhaps it's not an appropriate word to use. And so it's sort of somehow creating this permission field where I can connect in with what love I have. It's interesting, it connects in with the resilience work. So the resilience work I'm doing at the moment is all around choice, giving yourself choice around, you might not have choice around the situation or the conditions, but you have choice around how you view it and how you respond to the situation or how you hold it in your mind. And just being able to be awake to what's going on inside of you. So we could be driven in any one moment by, say, regret or shame, or we could be driven by blame or by retribution, by wanting to get back at people, or even by hatred, or we could be driven by righteousness. The world should be different from what it is. It should be fairer, or all of these things. Or we could be driven by comparison and jealousy and envy. And those are kind of all demeaning, for want of a better word. And myself, if I'm driven by any of them, I'm kind of demeaning myself. I could be driven by fear or anger or pride, false pride, or desire. And they're kind of on a boundary. They can go one way or another. They can take me more down into those other energies we talked about, or they can lift me out. Anger particularly can sort of shift my energy. Or we can be driven by courage, by curiosity, by clarity of need, by gratitude, genuinely gratitude. And lastly, we could be driven by love. And if you think about it, when you tap into your love, just a moment, just tap into your love. The very first thing is it's available to you. It's available to you right now, should you choose to look at it. And the other thing is it's unlimited. It doesn't matter how much you have of it, how much you give of it, love. You've got an unlimited reservoir there. And so that really could support you in your resilience, but it also could support you in your leadership. So sorry, I don't know whether I answered your question.
No, that's really powerful, and I think it resonates with me, because I go back to the absolute cliche, but it's true that people forget what you did, they forget your name, they forget your job title, but they never forget how you made them feel.
Absolutely.
And also what you're saying there about the unlimited nature of love in leadership, because we don't know what's around the corner. Firms are going into economic problems potentially, but having that unlimited source of love. So as a leader, how do you tap into this? Because it's a radical change from a lot of Western styles of leadership. So what does a leader do to tap into this, to unleash it, to transmit this leadership of love to their people?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it starts with just becoming awake to its power, awake to those other energies that are going on occasionally, and then just gently escorting your attention. So back to what say Michael was talking about, this idea of becoming present, using mindfulness, for example, as a way of becoming genuinely present to what's happening. And if I listen to myself and go, okay, fine, so I'm just driven a little bit by envy here, or I'm a bit frightened here, or I'm kind of not really sure of where I am right now. Okay, fine, so I notice that, and that's fine. But what if I gently escorted my attention to love, to my capacity to love? And maybe it could start with, what is it that I've got available in myself here right now? So I think it's a gentle escorting, for want of a better word. And then a kind of recognition, here I've got it, this is it. And then allowing that to amplify. What if I came at this with love? What might emerge? What if I let go of having to be something that I'm not, or having to show up in a particular way, but rather to let go of all of those things and just go, okay, so if I brought my love to this, what might happen as a result? And I don't know how you feel, but even when I talk about that, I feel more enabled.
Absolutely. So the change, I suppose with all change starts individually. You talked about mindfulness. I see parallels with centering prayer and all that sort of thing. Does a leader have to have a spirituality to do this, or can it come from the leader beginning to open up, I suppose, to this?
That's interesting. I guess it sort of depends on what you define as spirituality. But I don't think, in my own opinion, I don't think a leader has to have anything except awareness and presence and mindfulness. You know, this idea of spirituality is incredibly powerful, I think. And, certainly the wonderful Claire Breeze, who I have worked with many years in Loom, she talks about this idea that, 30, 40 years ago, psychology was poo-poo in organizations, and now it's a fundamental part of organizations. And within the next 20 to 30 years, spirituality is going to be a fundamental nature of organizations as well. But this ability to connect in with what's real for us, be able to connect in with our heart, our gut, our soul, for want of a better word, not in a frightening or religious way, but simply, what is really important to me? What is my purpose here? What's my genuine purpose here for the world? And now come back to right now. COVID isn't just about COVID. Look what's been happening. The environment, Black Lives Matter, for example, that huge movement in racial fairness. Genders coming back again in terms of those all of those things which are that in the world are wrong, for want of a better, are being revisited right now. And it's my genuine, I've got this kind of metaphor that if you do not do the right thing right now, you know what the right thing is. There's enough information as a leader to tell you what the right thing is. Don't be led by me. Don't be preached at by me. I'm not going to preach at anybody. But if you don't do the right thing, one day your statue will be pulled down. And it might not happen in your lifetime, but your grandchildren might look forward and be ashamed of you rather than proud of you. And all of these things for me are part of your spirituality, that kind of leaving something in the world that where people are genuinely proud of what it is you achieved. And you move forward, genuine pride in what you've achieved. So when you come back to love, it's kind of like the more that you can draw on that in a moment, in the present state, by all means, focused on the reality of the situation, the more that you're more likely to do something which is the right thing, the more likely you are to allow, if you like, a statue to stand. Rather than be pulled down in the future by somebody who goes, no, you got away with it then, but you're not going to get away with it forever.
I think also what you were saying about love being tough love as well. It's acting with integrity and with love, even when you have to make tough decisions, which a lot of our leaders are going to have to make some very hard decisions over the next months and years of this. So coming back to the core of this, which is a huge, and I agree with you, it's not as widespread as I think it will be. If you had to summarize this and put all of this together for what a leader should do, just get onto this path and how they should develop it, and and how that journey progresses, what would you say?
Thank you. I would say give yourself permission. Give yourself permission to explore what is genuinely really important to you. Give yourself permission to explore your own capacity to love and to use it. And maybe as a leader, set the frame in your organization such that other people can do the same. So start to model it which might be bringing some courage to the situation, because I do think it takes courage to talk about love in an organisation at the moment still. But if you're modelling it in your behaviour and you're encouraging it, amplifying it in others, allowing others to tap into it as well, then you start to create this environment in which people can be at their best doing the right thing. And just coming back to your difficult conversations, your tough conversations, by the way, I can go into a tough conversation with a certain kind of uncertainty about whether I'm right or I'm wrong, or, you know, that's probably usually the difficulty for me personally, that I'm going into a tough conversation, but I'm not quite sure of my agenda, and I think it's going to hurt the person in front of me. But if I come into a tough conversation with a genuine capacity to love, I'm trusting my good intention, and then I go straight. But I'm also creating the containing space in which I'm going to look after the person with whom I'm having the tough conversation, not make it not fluff my message. Nevertheless, I can have a really straight conversation with you, and at the same time provide a containing space in which you can look after yourself and I can look after you as we have that conversation. And so love comes very much into that too. Does that make sense? So love is not soft and fluffy in my view, but I need to give myself permission to connect in with it.
That's extremely powerful. And I think for a lot of leaders are giving themselves permission to demonstrate their love, to pass it on to the others, to act with that at their center. If people want to learn more about this, are there any things you'd recommend them to read or look up?
Well, I would actually. I tell you what, I know Helena Clayton's document right now. It's called Leadership and Love. It's part of the Val Hammond research competition from the Roffey Park Institute. I know they're a bit of a competitor of ours. So what? That's a really great start. There are a number of other books around. Adam Grant talks about it quite a lot in his work. I love his work at the moment. You can go right back to Adam Kahani's work on power and love. There's a whole lot of stuff that's emerging now if you look for it, and it's sort of it does remind me of a story. I don't know whether you've got time. I'm just going to tell you the story, but of an old man who's sitting between two remote villages in a really poor area, exposed area of the world, and he's just sitting there, and a young traveller comes past, and the young traveller says to him, "Good day to you, sir. How are you? Would you mind telling me, please, what's the village like that I'm coming to?" And the old man says, "Well, what was the village like that you've just been to?" And the traveller said, "Well, it's very, very poor area, very remote. They're very exposed. They're really quite. They struggle a bit there. You know, it's a tough life." He said, "And it was very cold. And somebody allowed me to sleep on their floor. They trusted me to sleep with them on their floor. And they shared their dinner with me. There wasn't, there really hardly was any for them, and they shared some with me, and they insisted that I have some. And you know what? There was enough. There was enough, and it wasn't to my normal taste, but it was warm, and it fed me for the night. We couldn't speak. They couldn't speak my language, so we operated with sign language all evening, and we had a really great time. We laughed, and this morning, as I left early, they got up and waved me off." And the old man said, gently and kindly, he said, "I think you might find the village you come to much the same." And the young traveller was travelling the other way and said to the old man, "Tell me, old man, what's the village like I'm coming to?" And the old man said to him, "Well, tell me what the village like was that you've just been to." And he said, "Well, it was very rough and very poor, very cold. I had to sleep on somebody's floor. They shared their dinner with me. It was horrible. I hardly had any. There wasn't very much of it anyway. And nobody could speak my language. So we went to sleep relatively early. I didn't sleep very well, to be honest. And I got up and left this morning, and I'm on my way." And the old man said, gently and kindly, "I think you might find the village you come to much the same." And I think that for me is part of it. It's like, what do we look for? what are we habitually looking out for in others, in the world, in ourselves? And what if we gently escorted our mind to those bits that are good and kind and, you know, loving in ourselves as well? That part for me is part of this.
Jeremy, thank you very much. That was a huge and really, I think, important talk about the leadership of love and how leaders can radically change the way they operate. Thank you very much. Thank everybody for listening to the latest of this.
Yeah.
Pleasure. Leadership Insights from the Møller Institute. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul.